everyone. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley in for Barbara Ham-Lee. A young man chokes back tears as he forgives his brother's killer, then asks if he can give the woman a hug. This is followed by the judge who is overseeing the case also giving the woman a hug. And then there was video of the bailiff standing next to the convicted woman stroking her hair. These actions have prompted both outrage and praise, with some asking, why are African Americans so willing to forgive? What are your thoughts? Also, things are changing by the minute regarding the impeachment inquiry. There's so much to talk about, and the Another View Roundtable is here to do just that. We'll begin the conversation right after this.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley, filling in for Barbara Ham-Lee. Let's get right to it. Last week, jaws dropped in a Dallas courtroom when 18-year-old Brandt Jean took the stand and told his brother's killer that he forgave her. Then he said something that left the room stunned.
I forgive you. I love you as a person. And I don't wish anything bad on you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please? Please?
Now, the two hugged for at least a minute, and according to witnesses, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Brandt Jean's actions even sparked Judge Tammy Kemp to reach out to Amber Geiger. In the sound that you're about to hear, the judge not only shares details of her conversation with Geiger, but her thoughts when Geiger asked her for a hug.
I'm trying to look at the person beyond the act. I just said to her, Miss Geiger, Mr. Jean has forgiven you. Please forgive yourself so that you can live a purposeful life. And she said, do you think my life can still have purpose? And I said, I know it can. Your job is to do justice, to love mercy, and walk humbly. So how can you not hug this lady? So we hugged. I felt somebody who was incredibly fragile.
Now, all of this, including the bailiff stroking Geiger's hair, which I'll explain in a minute, has generated an explosion of comments, both negative and positive, from an example of unconditional love and forgiveness to anger that this love fest is taking the focus off of racial violence in this country, something that so many feel needs to be addressed. Well, ladies, I love to hear from you, and so does our audience. Our incredibly insightful Another View Roundtable is here to share their thoughts. Please welcome relationship expert Alvean Lyons, who's joining us by phone today. Alvean, thanks for being here. And Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester.
Hello.
Norfolk State University Political Science Professor Carol Pretlow.
Hello, I'm here.
And Virginia's comedian Allison Moore.
Hey, y'all, hey.
Now, if you'd like to be a part of this discussion, give us a call at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Now, Alvean, you're there, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this kind of forgiveness. We saw it with the families forgiving Dylan Roof after the church shooting in South Carolina. Some feel African Americans are just too quick to forgive. Your thoughts?
So forgiveness is a very complex thing, obviously. You know, that to stay in a place of unforgiveness, people say it's akin to drinking poison, hoping that the other person will die. Okay, that the experience of staying in that toxicity actually destroys the person who is unable to forgive. So if we think about forgiveness from that standpoint, then obviously it makes perfect sense that Brandt would not want to hold or harbor that kind of toxicity in his heart. And we certainly understand that given the fact that the family truly was nurtured in a culture of faith, and for them, what they would consider to be a passionate and sincere commitment to their relationship with Christ. So for the family and Brandt, obviously, speaking, and he said also that his family didn't know what he was going to say. He's not speaking on behalf of the family, he was speaking for himself, but he knew that Bolton would want that because of his fundamental commitment to his walk with Christ. So from that standpoint, it is certainly understandable that the tenets that guide their life would underpin any decision, and this would be the ultimate test of faith for them. And obviously, he's exemplifying that faith. On the other hand, however, because it's not just about the nature of these cases are so high profile that it's not just about this individual family, as they also carry the weight of the African American community on their shoulders when it comes to racial injustice, fair or unfair. It's one of the realities. So, of course, there was also the reflex response from many who felt like it really was an issue of us as a people of culture were so quick to allow for us to be done wrong or injustice to be, put upon us, and that we do not hold people accountable at the level that they should be held accountable in order for justice to actually be served long term. So it's a complex situation because you have to look at it both from the individual perspective and the collective perspective, because this represents more than just one family.
Okay. Daun?
We weren't in the courtroom. And so I was grateful that she was convicted. Can't say anything about the sentence because, once again, I wasn't in the courtroom. I have served as a jurist, and it's a hard position to be in when you're finding someone guilty and making those kinds of decisions. I, in my own life, know that it's better for me to forgive. I'll never forget. But it's better for me to forgive because I need for my life to move forward. And I would think Brandt probably did it then because he wouldn't have had an opportunity again to have given himself permission to move on. And I think it was for both of them that he wanted to do that, to give her that hug. In reference to the judge, no, I wouldn't have. But once again, I wasn't in that room. And so I find it hard to judge someone else's actions when I am not present and in that moment. I know that we've got so much violence out here that I was pleased to see people hug. I was pleased to see people share the word with someone. The young former police officer, now she's got a whole lot that she has to work through because she took a life. As people of color, are we quick to forgive? I think for many of us, we do forgive because we want to move on. So I've seen some of the stuff online, but that's just me. I don't want to judge people because it's not for me to judge. God got that. I just got to do what he tell me to do.
Carol?
Well, I feel almost the same way as Daun. When I saw the clips, there were two things going through my mind. As a lawyer, I said, okay, there is supposed to be separation of church and state, which means that in order to be objective, I cannot let my personal opinions influence my decision about the decision of the jurors. But on the other hand, with that separation of church and state, the context of that is we're a Christian nation. And we were found on this, I don't want to say ideology, but on the principles of religion. So now, if the judge had hugged the young lady during the trial, I would have been adamantly opposed to it. But the trial was over. And judges, jurors, all of us are individuals. And I thought it was a very significant motion that the judge did by hugging her. No, you're still guilty. The judge performed her duty, but the trial is over now. And as an individual, I thought that was a perfect way to bring closure to the case.
Miss Millennial.
I just had to keep telling myself, that's his brother. It's not my brother. And if it was my brother, I don't think my actions would have been the same. But I can't make a decision for how he should have responded when we're talking about the brother. And then with the judge, it was weird and creepy. I mean, I'm like, it's a lot to unpack and different ways to feel. But ultimately, I just try to think, I guess I imagine that judge probably knew the cop, right? Like,
I would think so.
They're co-workers, to some degree, right?
She had to probably been in
a
court
courtroom at least, yeah. So, I don't know, there's layers to it. But I saw an interview where the judge was talking about, she started with the family and then she didn't want to not hug her. And the young lady was asking her all of these compelling questions that made her, okay, I don't want to, put you under the jet. You're already going down. It's kind of one of those kick you while you down, salt in the wound kind of moments. Is is what I just said. Maybe that was what was in her heart, but it ain't my brother.
Okay.
Right.
Let's take a call. Ray joins us from Hampton. Ray, thank you for calling Another View.
Hello?
Yeah, thank you for calling. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm very upset with this case as to how Amber Geiger became an equal victim. It's just been insane.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You got a text message or something.
Yeah,
the show an hour, brother.
Go right ahead. Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
But yeah, I was just so upset about this whole situation because you got a bailiff who's stroking her hair. You got the judge who's hugging her, reading her passages from the Bible. How did she become an equal victim when she was the one who killed someone? And why does it seem when it's always the officer involved, everybody always says, well, let's just look at how they might have reacted or their perspective. There's somebody dead here.
Well, I do know, and I'm going to let Daun jump right in, but I do know one thing about the stroking her hair thing. The judge says she was stroking her hair because she was checking for any kind of contraband or weapons that she might be trying to, because she was about to go, to start serving her time. She was checking. She said they always check their hair to make sure there was nothing in it. And that's why she was, she had her fingers, the bailiff had her fingers in the woman's hair, according to the judge. So
right, because that's what they do, because they were getting ready to take her back.
Right.
And that was going to be it. And that's why I said the brother, that was the only time he was going to get a hug unless he went to visit her. And I, personally don't see it as what did he say, an equal victim?
Yeah.
He said they have made her the victim as opposed to.
I don't see her as a victim.
I don't see
now.
her as a victim either.
She committed a crime and she's going to do time. Would I like for her to do more? The answer is yes. Once again, I wasn't there. But I don't see her as a victim. She committed a crime and she's going to jail.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Anybody else want to answer? Okay. Thank you for calling, Ray. Daniel from Hampton. Daniel, you're on the air. Go right ahead.
Yeah, hi. The way forgiveness is practiced or executed, the way that the brother did that in the stand, that's nothing in the Bible. That's nothing the way the Bible did it. Even Jesus didn't forgive the people who crucified on him. He said, Father, forgive them. And forgiveness is supposed to be between people who already have a relationship, the way it's taught in the Bible. It's a community thing among brethren who are... Now, if they had gone to church together, that cop and that black guy on the stand, the brother, if they had been church members and they had hugged, I forgive you, that would have been a beautiful moment. But that was nothing Christian that happened there. That's not the way it was in the Bible. It's the way Jesus taught it. It's within the context of a community. People who already had it's to maintain love between brothers. You forgive, you forgive endlessly, pretty much, and then I rebuke you when you sin. And we maintain the love that we already had. It's not supposed to be between random people who don't know each other. But if he wants to relieve his mind or something like that, yeah, that's fine. That's like some New Age stuff. But that's not what's in the Bible.
Okay.
It's not taught like that.
Thank you. Danielle, I'm gonna let the round table respond to your comments.
I don't know. I'm about to come out my chair because I don't know what Bible that is he's reading.
I like that version. I'm gonna go take back some of my forgiveness cards. I'm gonna call a couple people like, according to Dan. Brother Dan said I didn't have to forgive you because I don't know you.
There's a whole bunch of folks.
So I'm gonna need to forgive. But I don't know. I don't want to get down this whole. That's a whole message and a preaching situation. But ultimately, if the brother if that's what he want to do, that's what he want to do. Was it weird? That's my word. Weird and creepy and different from what many of us would do. Absolutely. Dan is about to start his own church. That's a little. Dan got the message version. He got the remix version. But I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna find that scripture. Dan, email me that.
Let's take one more call before we head on to another topic. Dorothy is calling us from Newport News. Dorothy, go right ahead.
Hi, yes. I'm really grateful that you're covering this subject today. I think it's very important. I think what happened in that courtroom and what happened in Charleston is extremely powerful. I think people need to pay attention to it, and we need to learn from it. Rather than saying, why are black people so forgiving, we need to learn. We need to look at them and say, wow, look at what these black people have done, and this is awesome. This is amazing. We can learn from them, because right now we live in a world that's filled with hate. Hate is running rampant right now. We have people shooting innocent people, going on shooting sprees because they are filled with hate. The only thing that is going to remove hate or move hate out of the way is love. And these people, this guy in the trial and the people in Charleston, they are letting love dominate their lives. They're living that way. They're setting the example. And yes, these people did wrong. But you know what? God said we have to forgive so that he'll forgive us. God forgave the guy on the cross who he didn't even know. He said, in this day you will be with me in heaven. We have to learn to be forgiving. And being forgiving is a loving act. It's a loving deed. And if we want to remove the hate that's in this world, we have to learn how to love. And I find it very, very, very interesting that it's the black community that is actually setting the example and showing us this is how you let love dominate in your life. You learn to forgive even those people who don't necessarily deserve forgiveness. But that's what Christianity is all about. None of us deserve to be forgiven, but God gave his life and sacrificed his son so that we might be forgiven.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Charleston.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. We really appreciate that.
Okay, well,
Carol?
And I agree. I agree about love and forgiveness and all of that. But then what's the next step after that? I love you. I forgive you. Now what? Is the community going to support that? Are we going to have a circle of the same kind of activity again? Now, does it mean that every time a similar crime gets committed that we're going to go this love, forgiveness? I'm kind of sick of that. I do believe in love. I do believe in forgiveness, but I'm sick of doing it and then having the same situation occur again.
We want violence to go away.
Yeah.
We want violence to go away and for civility to take its place and for us to talk to each other, even if we disagree. We keep talking about it and we keep doing it and we keep showing it, because that's the only way you're going to work through it, because we all think different ways. It does. It continues to happen, and it happens more and more.
Okay. Well, we're gonna.
And we have to remember that forgiveness is not about the fact that we're absolving the person of the responsibility and the consequence of their actions. It's not a wiping away of the realities of what took place, but it's a posture. It's a position that we are taking internally. And so that forgiveness posture that Brandt chose was his to choose. But it does not change the fact that there still needs to be accountability and justice associated with the injustice that too many marginalized facets of our communities are often at the receiving end of. So we're not in any way absolving, whomever it was for whatever their violation is. But it is to say that we're choosing not to live inside of the poison of that particular pain and that anger. And it's important also when we start talking about the color concept associated with this. And it was interesting. Joy Behar actually brought this up on The View just, a couple of days ago. And she said, I'm very curious about if we flip races in this, what would the difference have been? What is the difference typically? Do we ever see that if we exchange this? And of course, obviously, we all know that Joy is Caucasian or European American. So she was personally bothered by it in that she worried that it's only one-sided, that same grace is not going to be afforded in the opposite direction, speaking from her community. So I do think that, to our previous caller's point about the fact that look at the Black community leading the way, which is also the reason, to be very honest, when I speak to non-Black individuals or non-ethnic individuals about the things that make the needle move for them, what's interesting is that it's rarely when things are equal. You did this is the consequence. We handle the consequence. It's just done. That's what fair and legal was. The movement often ends up being based on, wow, I'm almost ashamed that we didn't behave that way. It's why they love Martin Luther King, that he returned hate with peace, and the peace that he modeled actually made them feel ashamed for the hate that they were modeling. So the movement is often in response to our peace, which is interesting, rather than in response to our stand, even though we deserve to be able to stand just like any of our other non-Black brothers or sisters or brown brothers and sisters. But the community as a whole seems to be much more moved when we take positions of peace. The problem is, with forgiveness should come repentance, and repentance is about changing your ways. And if you are on the receiving end of that forgiveness or that grace, then it is your responsibility to change your ways. And what the communities of color are questioning is whether or not our Caucasian brothers and sisters or white community brothers and sisters are going to change how they are operating as a byproduct of our forgiveness model, so to speak.
All right. And on that note, we're going to end that portion of the discussion and switch gears just a little bit. There is so much going on, particularly surrounding the president. His Syria strategy has longtime supporters turning on him. The impeachment inquiry is gaining strength. 2 associates of Rudy Giuliani have been arrested for funneling foreign money into Trump's campaign. They are also accused of helping Giuliani in his efforts to get Ukrainian officials to investigate Joe and Hunter Biden. And there's a new Fox poll, yes, I said Fox, that says 51% of Americans want Donald Trump impeached or removed from office. Is this the beginning of the end?
I hope so.
Dawn.
Tell us how you really feel.
Tell us how you really feel.
Tell us how you really feel, Auntie Dawn.
I hope so. It is. I see us in a revolutionary war and a civil war at the same time. So we have a man leading this country who is a dictator he's a dictator, my way or no way. And he works with other leaders who are the same. And as a country and as a people that call ourselves United States citizens, we have to fight that. Because I don't want us to be, I'm not going to live under a dictatorship. So I'm just saying, y'all, we got to fight this, and which means you got to speak up and do something and say something. And when you get them phone calls for polls, or if you do or you don't, you need to start saying what you feel. You need to put it out there. Mm-hmm. And then we're in a civil war with the right and with the left. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not, I mean, I'm a Democrat. I'm not a liberal Democrat, but I'm a Democrat. But I believe in the Constitution. Every oath I have taken, I hold my hand on the Bible and say, I'm going to do what is in the Constitution. And that is not happening. So those people who are up there now, in the Senate especially, because we wouldn't have the votes, even as we move this forward, we don't have the votes in the Senate today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But as all this stuff keeps unfolding, it breaks my heart to see it unfold, but I'm so happy that people are seeing what has been occurring for such a very long time.
Carol, I want to hear from you, but I just want to, if you're just joining us, we're talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C. with the Engaging Another View Roundtable, Daun Hester, Alvean Lyons, Allison Moore, Carol Pretlow, and I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley, filling in for Barbara Ham-Lee. Please join the conversation, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Carol.
Okay. I really, really, really believe in the American system of government. And I think my allegiance is, like Dawn said, to the Constitution. I'm an independent, so it means that I'm looking at facts, I'm looking at issues, and sometimes I vote Republican, sometimes I vote Democrat. But I am not so aligned with either one that I'm going to stray from my belief that those people who are elected to represent me and others should be fulfilling their duty to the Constitution and forgetting their allegiance to Trump, who does not even deserve it. I could see in other cases when we have looked at, Bill Clinton, for example, and said, there may be, this is something that I don't want to be engaged in, but this is for the preservation of our union. If we step back now, I think our democracy, or what is known as democracy, is going to slide. It's sliding globally even as we speak. The weight of democracy is slowly drifting away, and we can't afford it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Carol on that, and that, I too am pretty independent politically. I find that my value system, in a lot of ways, in terms of our responsibility to our neighbor, our brother, our sister, the least of them, leans definitely more democratic. Some of my, Christian perspective over the years leaned a little more conservative. But I think that that's probably very true when we start talking about faith for most people of color in communities of faith, just in terms of the value, not necessarily the political affiliation. But what Carol was referencing, that I think also that Dawn was speaking to too, is that we really are, as Joe Biden did say very eloquently, in a fight for the soul of our nation right now. That this is not just about politics anymore. This is principally who will we be as Americans, and that has to, if you are a principled person, that has to trump, no pun intended, party affiliation. That we can't ever be, no matter who we are or what side of the aisle that we have traditionally voted on, we can't ever be so party loyal that we are principle poor. We are at a place in our nation that the question is, does character matter anymore? Never mind just whether or not you believe we should have, engaged in this particular civil war, whether we should have, made these particular decisions in terms of our investment or divestment from any particular entity. Never mind all of those things. The question is, does character matter in leadership anymore? And if we are not willing to stand for character, then quite literally we are choosing to lay down for everything else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Allison?
I got popcorn. I got political popcorn. I need to start a brand. This is really interesting, and it's kind of deflating, as we talked about my own journey with pressing in, and some of my fellow millennials, like we're going to commit, we're going to pay attention, we're going to vote. and there's like really a meeting. It's like, okay, y'all, come on now. We done voted now. This is looking kind of crazy around here. Help. And so I can see even in some of my circles where that momentum is like, this joker is crazy, and he's been crazy, and it just feels like that people don't care. And so I see people losing their steam to want to speak up. You know how you're saying you got to vote and you want to speak up, but it becomes deflating for someone. Like, well, we did vote, and we did try, and we tried to engage, we tried to press in, and these are the results. And it's almost easier to not pay attention, because the more that you watch and you realize this is acceptable for a lot of people, it's hurtful. You know, it's really hurtful to go, when I do stand-up comedy and I hear so many people or comedians in the audience, or comedians on stage, and some of the things that they talk about, it's one of those things like, oh, y'all really agree with this. And then this is the community that I'm in. These are the people that my peers. These are my neighbors. And so sometimes, you know, personally, I may want to let me just close my eyes or change the subject or not pay attention, because then I'm forced to see or feel like someone doesn't really like me as a person, or really promotes or supports Donald Trump, knowing that Donald Trump has done all of the egregious things that he's done. And so it just leaves me feeling powerless sometimes, and wanting to not pull out, you know, wanting to not be a part.
And that's suppression. And that is what is the plan. And if you acquiesce to that, then we get what we got.
Well, first of all, Auntie Dawn, you would say acquiesce up in here, like we're going to glim over that word, acquiesce. Spell it. I'd laid my heart out in honesty, and you going to say acquiesce.
If we're going to let that feeling of, I tried, I voted, it didn't work, we still got these people, and nothing's changing, then I just might as well just not vote. Or I just might as well not speak up. When people are trying to suppress you and control you, that's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to feel. And so they're trying to take away what is your power, which is the ballot. And if you do vote and continue to vote and vote enough, you vote people out to get people in who you feel have the character to lead the country or state or city based on the Constitution and the rules that have been forth. So if we can't acquiesce. We can't, even though you feel it, you can't let it stop you. We just cannot stop, no matter what.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
ladies. All right.
I'm nodding.
I am too.
And you did hear what President Trump said about the poll, though, right? You ladies, that it was, I'll quote him here. From the day I announced I was running for president, I have never had a good Fox News poll. Whoever their pollster is, they suck. But Fox News is also much different than it used to be in the good old days.
Okay. This man is smart. This man is smart. We think he's dumb because of what he does. Excuse me, because I don't usually say this about people. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly who is controlling him, because no, he is not wise enough to do this on his own. Okay? So the authoritarians that are controlling him and dictating his decisions, and all of the collusion that is occurring, that is being revealed to us to see, this has been happening for years, people. It happens at your state and local levels as well. So what we're getting, I just keep saying, the Lord, excuse me, I got to bring him in, is giving the revelation to us. So what we going to do with what he's given us?
Good question. Let's take a phone call. Alex is calling us from Virginia Beach. Alex, thank you for calling Another View.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Go right ahead.
So I just want to agree, although I question if he really does know what he's doing. I mean, I just don't know that he's that good of an actor. But I do agree that he needs to go, and it's terrifying that people still believe everything he says. It's mind-blowing.
Well, it's starting to erode a little bit if he's losing his some of his support through Fox. If Fox is reporting that he's losing some of his support, it is starting to erode at least a little bit. And then you're starting to see more and more of his supporters that have been with him from the very beginning questioning some of his actions, like what's happening in Syria, for example. So you are starting to see.
And that, too, is a diversion. It's still Russia and Turkey, authoritarianism. Okay? That's who's in control, I believe. They've been meddling all along. That's another diversion. But we're killing people who were trying to take care of their own country with just us supporting them. We have to prepare for ISIS again, whoever's going to be the next president, because they're coming.
Exactly.
They're here. They're coming.
All righty. Thank you so much, Alex, for that call as well. Are you ladies ready to shift gears again?
Shout out to Hampton. We had 2 Hampton callers in Newport News. Come through other side of the tunnel.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
We love the peninsula. Okay, let's stay on the East Coast. We're going to leave Washington, D.C. We're going to drive down the East Coast, down to Florida, where DeAndre Somerville got what some say was much too stern a punishment for missing jury duty. DeAndre overslept on his first day of jury duty. It was for a civil automobile accident negligence case. As a result, the judge sentenced him to 10 days in prison, 1 year probation, 150 hours of community service. Now, DeAndre, who had no prior criminal record and is black, the judge is white. After serving his 10-day sentence, the 21-year-old appeared in court and read a letter of apology. Now, the judge reduced his probation to 30 hours. The judge later vacated the probation altogether so that it would not show up on any background checks for DeAndre. But some are still arguing, they're still upset, still arguing that the sentence was over the top in the first place and was an abuse of power. Ladies, your thoughts.
Did he go give DeAndre a hug? I just want to know. I'm just asking.
I don't think that happened, Allison. I'm just saying.
See.
Well, see, oh, go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do understand that it has to be a penalty for missing jury duty, and it's not just an individual thing. It's to set the standard so that other people don't think of it, oh, well, I'll show up if I want to. But I think that it has to be modified, because here you have a young man who, I mean, give me a break. He overslept. Maybe that shouldn't be disregarded, but he could have done a fine, $25, $30, something like that, and said, okay, this should stand as a warning, because the whole idea of missing jury duty and fining and making sure that the public knows is to give a warning to the public that this is your civic responsibility. But let's not be excessive here. That's what I think.
I wonder, I'm sure this isn't the first time that has ever happened, and what the judge has done in the past. That's what I'm really interested in. Is everybody getting locked up forever for missing jury
that's
duty?
not happening. Everybody
Right?
isn't getting locked up for missing jury duty.
I would really like to hold him accountable to how did you decide this one should get this punishment as opposed to last week or 2 years ago, or those are the kind of things that I'm always interested in. When I heard this, that's what I thought about. Like, what does he always do?
Yeah, I was wondering too, because I was like, this is a little too much.
That boy must have messed with his daughter.
You have a substitute jurist, that could fill in. And yes, he needs to be fined because it's, you can't start the case until you're fully seated. But I thought it was over the top. But then I was like, but it's Florida. They got to stand your ground. They do stuff a little different, so I didn't know.
Have all of you served on a jury before?
I have.
They will not call me. I want to serve. They won't go.
Well, every time I get called, I get dismissed because
me too.
Of being in news.
Since I've been elected,
being a news anchor,
I get dismissed. But before, I did.
The other side of it is that usually, and I'm speaking from a situation that happened to me just recently, I was called to jury duty. and not call, but they serve the subpoena and everything. And on it states what would happen if you miss. Not once on that paperwork was there anything that I considered excessive. In the meantime, you were given the opportunity to call and explain what happened to make you miss. So I was wondering if all the rules of the whole situation were written down so this person knew, beforehand what would happen. Because usually the fine, and I'm not going to say it's minimal, but it's not a jail sentence. He has not committed a criminal act. It's a civil.
Okay, let's take a call. George joins us from Chesapeake. George, you're on the air. Please go right ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. First, I love your segment when you guys do this. I'm so happy when I catch it. Thank you so much. I love the different views that your panel always brings to the table to these current events.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This punishment, if you will, that this young man was receiving is just unbelievable. It doesn't meet the crime, if you will. It's not even a crime. Like you just said, it's a civil matter. And I'm sick and tired of seeing the black community held to a completely different standard when it comes to all sorts of behaviors. We see it that the young man whose brother was killed, that it was expected that as a member of the black community, you have this forgiveness, you are expected to behave a certain way, and at the same token, the other communities tend to look down on the black community as if they are unable to meet minimum standards. And yet they're held to the highest standards and then unequally punished. It's just ridiculous. And I'm multiracial, and I see this separation, this I'm just lost for words right now. It's just disheartening to see these standards that are just unfairly applied to members of the black community in so many different ways, and it's just picking and picking and picking and picking and picking away and nitpicking at the black community in small and big ways, systemically just picking at it. And this young man's punishment is just yet another example of that. He was intentionally made to be an example, and why? Why him?
Yeah, he has said that he feels now like a criminal. He said, but when he apologized, he said, as a result of my irresponsible actions, my life has been forever changed, because he did serve 10 days in jail. Yeah. He said, everything I've gone through, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And the judge said, what he said was sincere, but I can imagine if I had to spend 10 days behind bars, I would probably be very sincere.
But what's so interesting about that, and I really appreciate what the caller had to say, but we can look at case after case after case where you have seen a different application of the law where people of color are concerned relative to our white counterpart. So even when we were dealing with the college case, and I think it was a rape-related case off the top of my head, where the judge said that they didn't want to send the young man to jail because it would ruin his future. So you violated, permanently scarred another human being, a woman in particular, and we could get into that on a whole nother segment, because we value women less than we value dogs. You will spend less time in jail raping a woman than you will for killing a dog. And I'm a pet lover, but I just find that absolutely amazing in too many cases nationally. Same thing is true with the violation of children, that there are pedophiles who have served less time than people who have harmed animals. So we have chosen as a nation what it is that we are going to value. And one of the things that, unfortunately, each of these cases is illuminating is the fact that, which is why it says Black Lives Matter, no matter what your position is on whether or not that's, overly political, whether or not it's a hate group, this, that, and the other, which I find crazy, but people, rewrite whatever stories they want to write about what it is they have issue with. But just the sentence by itself, the fact that people have issue with the idea of you saying that your life matters as a Black person, and that is hate in itself, tells you what it is that we're dealing with inside of our nation. That where color is concerned, it has and will continue to be the ultimate sin of America. That we have still not addressed the fundamental issue that divides us, and that is race, over and over and over again. And we want to call it something different. Even inside of the school systems, you can see that the consequences for, in-school violations of various form, being tardy, getting in trouble in class, this, that, and the other. When you look at the suspension time given, it is the harsher sentences are disproportionately given to African-American children. But disproportionately, you have white teachers in the classroom. So what you're dealing with very often is that when Cody does it or Logan does it, I can see my son. I see my son in Cody and Logan because I am Kelly, and this is what my world looks like. So yes, when Logan jumps up on the desk, it's totally inappropriate, but it's not an act of inappropriate behavior at the level that I need to be concerned about moving him into a special education class. But when Deshaun does it, that little boy has problems, and we need to get him out of the classroom because I can't teach these kids while he's behaving like an animal inside of my classroom. And that obviously is, me kind of, adding to what that really is speaking to just kind of break it down as boldly as I possibly can. But that's what's happening across our nation over and over again, in our schools, in our courts, in our communities. Our last caller is spot on. We are held to the highest standards. There is no way on this planet that President Obama could do what President Trump has done and not have seen the inside of a jail 12 months ago. So we use these different standards. President Obama could not sneeze. He used a selfie. There was a selfie scandal because he was playing with a selfie stick and a cell phone inside the Oval Office, just being personable. And it was all over Sean Hannity that where is the honor for the Oval Office? Are you serious? So for Obama, it's a selfie scandal, but I won't even get into all the things he can do as Trump.
Right. We only got 9 minutes left.
Yeah, we got less than that actually, and I want to get to this last topic before we end for the day. Now,
Good one, Alvean, though.
Thank you so much, Alvean.
Thank you, Alvin.
The movie Harriet premieres in theaters next month, and it's a look at the life of Harriet Tubman and follows her journey from her escape from slavery through dangerous missions that she spearheaded to lead hundreds of enslaved people to freedom. Well, it is not without controversy. The actress playing Harriet has been, criticized, chastised, because she is not American. She's a Tony, Emmy, and Grammy Award winner, though. Her name is Cynthia Erivo, and she is British. Now, critics say casting a non-American who is not a descendant of slavery is disrespectful to Black Americans. Now, Erivo, who, as I said, Tony, Emmy, and Grammy, she's not no slacker. She's not a slacker. She knows her stuff. But this is what she had to say.
I do think that there is conversation to be had, and I do think that that if there are hurt feelings, that I don't want to seem as though that they are easily dismissed. I don't want anyone to feel like that, and I do want to be able to have a conversation with people. But at the same time, I would say that I put my heart and soul into it, and it means the world to me, and she means the world to me. And hopefully, after watching, I might make some people proud, and that hopefully I might change some people's mind.
Now, Miss Allison here worked on the set of that movie, so what are your thoughts? We'll start with you.
Well, so I auditioned to be a background slave in this movie. I didn't get the part because I had braces. They're going to try to tell me the slaves ain't have braces then.
Yeah, they did.
Well, how they know? Who was there? You don't know. But as a result, I did get to work as a stand-in. And so that's a person that stands in for some of the main actors while the cinematographers and et cetera are lighting and things are set up. So I stood in on that set probably, I probably put in about 3 weeks worth. And so I had a lot of interaction with the actress, Cynthia. And she did put her heart and soul in it. She was very kind. She was probably kinder to some of us than the supporting people, the cinematographer, those. However, I don't know. It's frustrating for Black women in entertainment, period. Yeah, I've been sitting here this whole time, and you skipped right over me and go with, I mean, we see that not just for this particular movie, but if you don't have an accent, if you don't have something that's exotic, then you get skipped over. And so we in America, actresses, comedians, you know, you're like, daggone, we can't even get the slave part because somebody has, you know, something else that makes their niche more appealing or attractive. And as a result, they get to kind of skip passing the line. And so before I could even say, well, dang, or correlate or say, well, that's not fair that she gets to play the Harriet role because she was not a descendant of slaves. I'm not even there. I'm just like, you know, can black women in America get parts in America?
Period.
Period. But to Cynthia, personally, I was there. Personally, she was kind. You know, we were outside at night, like all of those scenes and things like that. We had
shot at night.
Were shot at night. It was cold. It was, you know, she was sharing her heater. That was definitely an interesting environment. But she's dope. She acted her hiney off. But can we get some of these parts?
Okay, that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
It's access.
Right.
Just give us access and the opportunity to show who and what we have and what we can do.
Right.
And that's what she did. Clearly, she has done it if she's won all these awards already.
Yeah, she's bad.
I don't know where I really don't care where you come from. I just want to see if you can see the movie. And the movie is good. And it's portrayed based on the historical value of what we know about Harriet Tubman.
But we don't know that they didn't have braces.
No, we don't.
She's back. She's back with
No, we don't. And you could have kept your mouth closed and they wouldn't have seen them. However, we pick at everything. Why do we have to pick at everything? My goodness gracious. The sister got a part. She deserved to have the part. And she did it.
But this is the thing. There are only 1% of parts available for us. I think that that's where at least that community, I'm not speaking on the whole, just she's British and things, but there is a piece, there is some relevancy. We don't get supporting role. I mean, the supporting role that we get is the hey girl, hey.
Right.
That's it. I mean, I do that all the time. That wasn't good.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all good.
You know, so it's like, can we get some of this work because we don't get to be showcased?
Well, a part of that is us deciding that we're going to put our money where we want to put it so that we can showcase those that we want to showcase.
This is true. And I
so
think
my man just opened up his studio in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Okay. And he has his own controversy because, of course, people were saying we're not going to shoot in Georgia because of their laws. He said, I done put my money in here and I'm going to make it work.
Okay. And that's what we're going to end on, ladies. So thank you all very, very much today. And I want to thank our audience. Thank you so much for spending your noonday hour with us. If you've enjoyed the conversation, well, we just ask you to come on to our website, take a look. If you want to listen to the show again, we hope you will do that. Now, there's an event coming up. If you really enjoy the conversations that you hear here on Another View, there's an event happening at Norfolk State University. It's sponsored by their Center for African American Public Policy. It's titled Energy Equity, and it's engaging communities of color in Virginia and beyond. Now, it takes place in NSU Student Union Auditorium on October 23rd from 9:30 a.m. until noon. And for more information, you can call 757-823-8999, and seating is limited. If you'd like to hear this show again or share it with a friend, as I mentioned before, visit our website at anotherviewradio.org and download the podcast. While you're there, please sign up for our eView newsletter. Next week, it's our very first Another View Up Close, when we bring you an intimate conversation with people making a difference. Now, you won't want to miss it. Barbara talks to former Senior Vice President of General Manager of Cox Communications, Gary McCullum. Well, our theme music was composed by Jay Sinnott. A big thank you to Jonah Grinkowitz, who produced for me. And I would like to thank Paul Bibbo for answering phones. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer. I'm Lisa Godley. Thank you so much for sharing your noonday with Another View.